In terms of regulation, there's a couple of things. There's always regulatory threats because in general, I think governments and regulators have not been a fan of the industry, and sometimes for good reasons. If you look at it recently, for example, there's the EU who's proposing that blockchain should not be public because that would go against GDPR, and they should also not be private because that would impede their efforts against money laundering. So you have a bit of a catch-22 proposition here where you can't have a blockchain, and it doesn't have the force of law yet, but that's something that they're seriously considering. And another topic is the lack of neutrality. So we're starting to see legislation. We saw it in the US, it's being repealed, but we saw it in other places, which is not technologically neutral, where somehow, when you are using a blockchain as a technology, you become a crypto asset and you treat it as a crypto asset by default. When we launched uranium and on Tezos, and uranium is a commodity, it's pretty well-known assets. The fact that it's on a blockchain, it says, oh well, now it's a crypto asset. It's subject to all of this crypto asset legislation. No, it's not a crypto asset. You happen to have a ledger, and you happen to have your ledger on a blockchain. But fundamentally, the legislation shouldn't have nothing to do with the substrates. That's one thing. But to step in the regular shoe for a second, if you look at the industry, I've been on panels like this. I've seen panels like this 10 years ago, right? In 2015, we were talking about using blockchains and using digitalization of assets. And the technology has improved a lot in the past 10 years. It's far more scalable. And I'm glad that with Tezos, we've pioneered a lot of scalability and energy efficiency efforts. So, a lot of that is better. But I don't think that technology or scalability has been the primary impediment for adoption. And there are meaningful use cases which have been deployed. There are some digitalization projects. They're real. It's a real thing. There's real value. But they are dwarfed, 1 to 1,000 by the meme coins and other things. So, it's hard when the industry has been banging on the same talking points about digitalization of assets and all that to convince it, and doesn't have that much to show for. It has things to show for, but not that much. It's hard to convince the regulators that there's something very important here that's worth preserving and worth developing. So the lack of success of the industry is partly to blame here, but it feeds into itself because one of the biggest impediments for digitalization has been that the regulatory frameworks could not accommodate for it. So there's a little bit of dance here where the regulatory framework has to allow a little more to happen for digitalization to show some success, and digitalization has to show some success for the regulators to see the benefits of the technology.